The news. First, with breaking news.
Hello everyone and welcome. It's New Year Day Eve and congratulations, you made it. I am Nifemi Oguntoye. In less than 24 hours, we'll be saying bye-bye to 2020, a year so momentous. They named it twice. And everyone will keep talking about the year 2020. Hopefully that the new year comes with some good tidings and a better experience for everyone. We're talking, continue our conversation in the light of what we've been discussing thus far, counting down to the new year, and also talking about some of the issues here in Lagos. I'm joined by the Commissioner for Information, who we'll be talking a lot about what government is doing in the area of health and other matters. Gbenga Omotoso. Good morning, sir. Thank you for finding time to come.
Good morning.
Let us begin with clarification on the statement you made yesterday about debunking rumors that those who flout the 12 to 4 a.m. federal government curfew will be fined between 20,000 and 500,000. What exactly is government going to do? Are you saying that there are no fines at all for those who flout this order?
The question is, religious leaders, they've been so good in battling COVID-19 together with the government. And it is not now that there is a clamor for crossover nights, vigils and all of that, that the government will now say that it's going to clamp down on them. Nothing like that at all. What the government said was merely advisory. And it was just saying, I was talking to a reporter and I said, there is an existing law that says that on matters of public health, that if you disobey a regulation, you could be taken before a magistrate. You can fine you between 20,000 and 500,000. But I think in the way the reporter now put it, I mean, he was being sensational about it. He now said, if you flout crossover service, you will pay 500,000. And I immediately replied that that is not true.
But there's a possibility that if you're caught outside between 12 and 4 a.m., you'll be arrested. Is that a possibility?
There is a standing curfew by the federal government. The Lagos State government does not even have power to police everybody. We don't even have the police. It's all federal government, the curfew, the police, the enforcers, the enforcement, and everything. But all we are saying is advisory, that COVID-19 cases are rising, and that this is not the time for people to gather, and that anything that will encourage large crowds or gatherings, that we should try to discourage it.
I still will ask the question again. Would there be penalty for people who flout this law?
Of course, people are being arrested and all of that, but I do not feel that at this particular time, anybody who expects us to go and clamp down on churches and all that is getting it wrong. We are not going to do that. Religious leaders have been partners in this progress, in this battle against COVID-19, and this is not the time now that we are now going to say we are going to find them or to climb down on them. Everything the Lagos State government has said is advisory.
After all, we also have to be very careful because in enforcing the law, we may be breaking the COVID-19 directive. I've seen policemen arrest people and pack them together at the back of a van. And you're wondering, I mean, if you're arresting someone for flouting, you know, a COVID-19 directive, you're also breaking the law in the process of penalizing them. But let us get clarification on the directive vis-a-vis what the Lagos State government is doing. So the last press release I read was asking churches and other religious organizations to open 50% capacity and to also ensure that all the other non-pharmaceutical directives are complied with. The Christian Association of Nigeria recently also asked churches to ensure that they close their services by 11 p.m. We have heard other state governments banning outrightly crossed over services. What is the position of the Lagos State government in this regard? Yeah,
the position of the Lagos State government is that everybody, religious leaders, social organizations, all residents of Lagos should take responsibility. This is a public health crisis. And honestly, it has reached a crisis stage. The cases that we are getting now, they are far, far higher than what we used to get around this time during the first wave of COVID-19. So it is for everybody to take responsibility. I mean, people who are alive are the ones who can be talking about crossover nights, who can be talking about vigils and all of that. And there will still be so many crossover nights. So if you don't do crossover night, with a crowd this time around, it doesn't mean that you are not going to
So as
have
the
it again.
Lagos State government banned crossover services?
We are not going to use the word ban. No, no, no. We will only advise people to take responsibility.
So what exactly is the directive? Can churches open 50% capacity and close before 11 p.m. today?
Even the churches you are talking about, most of them have adjusted their programs. Some are saying that we are going to close before 11. Others are saying that we are going to remain in church until 4 a.m. after the curfew. I think the curfew takes care of everything. And it's a federal directive to all Nigerians that between 12 and 4 a.m., we don't want to see anybody on the street.
Just to be sure, I came across this letter written by the, I think it was from the police, written to a particular event center. And I'm just going to read a part to you. Following the second wave of COVID-19 in Nigeria, an increase in the number of coronavirus cases in Lagos State, Mr. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu signed an executive order on the ban on carnivals, concerts, social gatherings, street parties, and other events in the state until further notice. So in compliance with this executive order, the Commissioner of Police, Akim Odumosu, has warned all planned activities in any hotel, event center, or clubs hereby suspended with immediate effect. So there are religious organizations that use event centers for their services. This sounds like event centers are shut down. Does that mean that any religious organization meeting inside those event centers within a stipulated time is also breaking the law?
We shouldn't get it wrong.
Okay.
There are rules and regulations concerning COVID-19 and event centers and all of that. Concerts, jamborees, street parties, street jams, they are not
allowed,
advised.
Okay.
Now. But if you are holding your event in an event center and you abide by COVID-19 protocols, the number of people should be there, all of the hand washing machine, sanitizers, and everything you have there is no problem at all. But there have been event centers that have been shut down. Event centers that have packed people without any consideration, without any respect for COVID-19 regulations at all. They have been shut down. Nightclubs have been shut down. But now I know that Lagosians are very responsible people. Nobody will go and hold an event when the governor says, or the government says that this thing is a public health crisis and we shouldn't do anything to compound it. So I feel that there will be no reason for, the Commissioner of Police is just doing his job. After the governor has announced the regulations, he now picks it up to amplify it so that people can know clear and clean what is to be done, what is not to be done.
So the state government is merely appealing to residents to be responsible and to play their part, you know, in the fight against the second wave. But are you paying attention to what's happening in the markets? You go to the markets and there's no, you know, compliance.
I agree with you. It's been very difficult. We have a public enlightenment department that has been going out with loudspeakers and talking to people and giving them flyers and telling them that this thing is real. And, you know, during the first week, we encountered that kind of problem, too. Many Lagosians never felt that it's real. But as time went on, they now saw that, I mean, we should take responsibility and that we are as strong as the weakest link. Absolutely. And everybody is now saying that even if you don't want to be responsible for yourself, how about people around you are vulnerable? Old people, people with other conditions that may make any illness be so complex at this time for doctors to treat. And the result on the economy and all of that, if we lose our people, young people, active people, and even the old people who all need our support at this time. Right. So it's good for people to just take responsibility, and we are doing the advocacy and we are stepping it up.
Let's just take a look at the data for a minute. The first wave in April 2020, the average cases per day in Lagos was 150 to 175. We're told that at the height of the first wave, that's between June and August, in the outgoing year, the average cases were 225 to 375 per day. Now, at the bottom of the first wave in August, I think September, October, there were just about 25 to 75 cases being reported on a daily basis in Lagos. Now, the beginning of the second wave, now this is where it gets scary. December 2020, average cases per day between 100 and 459. What are the postulations? Because we've been hearing a lot about January, about how people flouted the law during Christmas and the implication of having a spike in the numbers. What is the government postulating, and is there the possibility of another lockdown?
Well, as far as we are concerned in Lagos, let me just answer the question from the last sentence. We are not planning another lockdown. Another lockdown is going to hurt our economy so hard, and we are not planning to do that. That is why we are telling everybody to take responsibility. That is why we have put all our doctors on the alert. That is why all our isolation centers, they are alive. There are some of them that we can activate as soon as possible. And it's true that the cases are coming up. And that is why we are telling Lagosians that even this second wave seems to be more, like the governor said, more ambitious than the first. More ambitious in the sense that it is more vicious, if I have to use that word. People are dying. It's so unfortunate. And I do not think that we should allow the prediction of experts that we could be picking bodies on the streets to come to pass before we begin to take responsibility. All of us have to wake up to the fact that this is a public health crisis, and even if you can be strong and be sure of yourself, nobody can be sure of himself that he's not going to get into trouble, COVID-19 trouble. How about people around you? How about your friends? How about your loved ones? People are weak, people have other illnesses that they are battling. So all of us should take responsibility, and it is very simple. When you are in public place, use a mask. When you don't have water to wash hands, use hand sanitizers. When you want to cough like this. And all of these things, if we obey, we are going to be able to battle the crisis and come out of it stronger and, you know, have a better society that all of us are praying for, so that 2021 will not be like 2020.
What, in your opinion, or rather, how, in your opinion, are Lagosians complying with all of these directives?
In my own personal view, the kind of compliance that we are aiming at, we are not getting it. Many people still believe that it's a myth and that it doesn't exist, and that, well, even if it comes, they can, you know, get by. It's not so. It's a very serious public health crisis, and in public health matters, all of us should come together. We should be united to fight it. If we say that we want to leave it all alone for the doctors, and then we want it to get to a crisis state before we begin to play our own part, it's not good at all. So Lagosians, I mean, they are responsible people. I mean, the first wave, all of us came together. There was a lockdown. All of us fought it together. And we came out, you know, bright. We came out stronger. And even all of the efforts that we made were recognized all over the world. And that is the way I want us to see this second wave. All over the world, you find people now locking down. You find people even enforcing it, asking their residents of cities not to go out. But in Lagos, you don't want to do that. So we are appealing to all market leaders, all traders, professionals, all people who are commuting in Lagos every day, that they must take responsibility. This is a public health crisis, and nobody is sure of where this thing is going to end. And we don't want anything that can bring a crisis that we will not be able to handle, that we affect the economy, that we affect social life, that we affect so many things in 2021.
You know, I've heard many commentaries about this, that if you haven't lost someone close to you, it is easy to say that the virus is a myth. Thankfully, Mr. Governor is hale and hearty. We were told that he also caught it and was infected by COVID-19. But how much work are we doing to ensure that information gets to the grassroots? We've had conversation about this, and some will tell you that there are people who don't even watch television, who don't listen to radio. You made mention of the marketplace. Is there a structure that helps the people to comply? And how do we even get the information to them to understand what is expected of them at this very critical moment? Yeah,
we have people, for example, we have public affairs officers who man our offices around the senatorial districts. We have people who go even on water to go to riverine areas, public enlightenment officers, to give them handbills and to educate them about this disease. We have people who are doing a lot on the social media so that everybody will know. So many Nigerians now have access to the social media. And on radio, on television, our people are there all of the time. It's just that people don't want to take responsibility, and I feel that that is not the right way to go. So in terms of telling people what to do and the advocacy, we are stepping it up. Every day we find new ideas to push. Every day we use drama, we use the arts, we use radio and television. We give them jingles every day to run. As soon as an idea comes, that will make people to listen, that this is a dangerous thing that has come to our society, and that it is not a death sentence. And if you don't feel fine, if you feel funny, don't go out, report to any of our testing centers, all of the testing centers in all of the local government areas now. And people are really complying. That is why you are seeing that the cases are going up, because we are doing more testing. That means that more and more people are listening.
But by more testing, I'm looking at the figures. Just one day ago, Lagos has tested just a little bit above 214,000. You look at that relative to the figure of people who live in Lagos. Would you say that we're doing enough testing?
214,000, no. That may be just for one day or something.
Okay.
Yeah, the figures are far, far higher than that. We have tested over 2,000, I think, as of about 2 weeks ago.
Okay, 2,000?
Yeah. Over 200,000.
Okay.
Over 200,000. I think there was even a time that we were planning to eat at least over 2,000 per day.
Okay.
And I think it may have
but
gotten
at
to
over
that stage now.
200,000, that's still a very little fraction of the millions of people who live in Lagos.
Yes, there are so many people who are having the condition and are not reporting it. And there are so many people who have been tested and then have been treated at home. So the data is being improved every day.
We hear reports of fake COVID-19 certificates. How is Lagos tackling this?
Well, we are...
Especially for those who are coming into the country.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Of all the passengers coming into Nigeria, the airport in Lagos, the Murtala Mohammed Airport, takes at least 90%. And people are coming in and then they are being lax about this COVID-19 test. And it's not because we have not put any machinery in place to be able to check this. So what we are trying to do now is to have a database on which all of the passports of people who are coming in will be put. And if you dodge the test, it will show, because you must have paid overseas that you are coming to Nigeria to stay for some time, and then after staying for about 7 days, you should go for the test. So if you don't go for the test and we don't see your name on the database, your passport could be, marked, and then you won't be able to travel again. So I think with that kind of a stiff measure, people are going to be able to be responsible and undergo the test.
So we hear that there are penalties such as withdrawing people's passports. Is this something the government is ready to pull through?
Of course, that's a federal matter, and I'm sure the federal government is ready to do that. Because all of us, we have to take responsibility. This is a very serious matter. You will agree with me that this is a disease that was imported. It's not something that happened there in Nigeria. It happened far away in China, and we started hearing it in Europe, and then it got here all through international travel. So if international travel is going to complicate things for Nigeria, I think the federal government knows what to do. And part of what to do is what they are talking about now.
We'll touch on other matters very quickly, but we hear that the virus is mutating fast and there are other variants that seem to be spreading so fast. What more information do we have, at the Lagos State level as regards these new strains of the virus? Well,
what I've heard our experts say about the new strain is that it's more vicious. More vicious in the sense that one could feel good today, and then all of a sudden, it can just change. Nobody has been talking about the dramatic nature of the virus. It is so dramatic. You can feel fine at this moment, and then the next moment, the thing will just change, and you can just get breathless. And if you don't have an expert around at that time, I mean, it could be very fatal, it could be dangerous. But what I have also seen, and what our experts have seen, is that our men are now more experienced now in tackling the virus. They are now more experienced in treating it. They are now more experienced in analyzing it. They are now more experienced in the diagnosis of it. So as soon as they see somebody who has it, even before you do the test, they could say immediately that, this is what is going on, and the person should be treated. So it is not, for me, and for everybody, we should know, a death sentence, because our people are now more adept at training it and at analyzing it.
That's right.
You know.
We'll turn on the phone lines very quickly to get some questions from viewers and perhaps get back to the COVID-19 pandemic in a moment. But let's talk about traffic robbery in Lagos, which appears to be back and even better. There are talks of the menace of area boys, cultists, hoodlums on the streets of Lagos, especially those who take advantage of the traffic congestion to rob people of their valuables. What is the state government doing in this regard? Well,
after the NSAS protest, when the policeman was disenchanted and disappointed at the society that they spend their lives protecting, they pay them back in a very negative manner. It was very difficult for the state government to get the policemen back onto their beats. And at that time, the traffic robbery became another problem because robbers saw through the loophole and they started exploiting it. But I can tell you now that the cases have gone down, considering the figures that we have. The police are now back on their beats, and traffic robbers are being robbed. They are being arrested every day. I think I was watching the television day before yesterday, and the police commissioner paraded so many of them. People who rob from the kidnappers and all manner of criminals who have been troubling the city. And I think the cases are going down. They are going down because the police are back. They are being strengthened. All of the equipment that were destroyed during the NSAS, the state government is trying to bring them back. And some of them are back in terms of vehicles, in terms of motorcycles. And nowadays, you see those RRS men on motorcycles going around during traffic jams so that people don't take advantage of that and begin to rob innocent people. So it's being tackled.
The last time I checked, there was a ban on motorcycles on the main roads in Lagos. But it's something you can see for yourselves that it appears that ban has been lifted given the way it's now been flouted across the metropolis.
Yeah, I agree with you that so many people have brought in motorcycles into Lagos. And it's not that that ban has been lifted. A few days ago, in one day, over 250 motorcycles were impounded by the task force. So there's a new task force now working on it, and I assure you that we will get results. And we are getting results. If we could impound over 250 in one day. And people are just, if there are no riders, these guys will not be there. And the way they are even riding, there are over 6,000 roads in Lagos. And what we are saying is that just about 450 Okadas should not come there. But these guys, they seem to be alone to themselves and taking advantage of the fact that at a particular point, maybe after the NSAS protest that the police were demoralized, then they just thought it's a laissez-faire atmosphere again. But I assure you that the task force is on top of the matter, the police are on top of the matter, and they are being arrested every day.
But is there a sense reviews this ban? Because you also want to find out why are they so adamant? Is it a situation where it is practically impossible to live a life in Lagos without them? You also want to consider the economy of their jobs and the implication on the quality of life that people live. Is there a constant review of this policy, really breaking it down in order to understand why it just seemed impossible to let them go?
No, it's not that it's impossible to let them go. It's because Lagosians, at some areas, they don't have what we call last mile buses. But I assure you, in a few, maybe in about 2 months now, we are going to be rolling out new buses, last mile buses, 14-seaters and all of that, can move people from short distances. The last mile, when you get off a BRT, buses that you can board and get home, that you don't need to ride a motorcycle. So, I mean, if motorcycles operate in the rural areas, that's fine. But to come to the city center, the central business district, and all those places, that will no longer happen. In about 2 months, we'll see brand new buses on Lagos Road.
To rebuild and, revamp all that was lost during that protest, how well are they faring? I know you mentioned that some buses will be brought in sometime soon.
Yeah, that's not part of it.
Okay.
That's a program that the government has had since last year, although delayed by the NSAS protest and some other things. But the committee to rebuild Lagos, what we are doing is that the government set up a trust fund.
That's right.
And then the committee is to run this trust fund. So some people have been talking about rebuilding the infrastructure and all of that. First, we do not have the kind of money that we need to do all of that. It's so much. So what the committee is doing now is to see how the money can be raised before we even talking about rebuilding. But then people think about rebuilding Lagos is all about the infrastructure. That is not it. What the governor, Mr. Baide Sanwo-Olu, has in mind is that we should even rebuild the minds of our people,
Absolutely.
orientation of our people, that all of the things that we provided for the comfort of all of us, how can they just go there and get them destroyed as if they are agents of discomfort? How can Lagosians who sleep together, work together, play together, all of the time, all of a sudden, some people will just rise and begin to burn down things. I mean, the kind of things that we never saw in Lagos before. So he is looking at ways of rebuilding that love that Lagosians shared, that pride that Lagosians shared.
Let me hold you for a minute to take Joshua's call from Ire-Wolide in Ogun State. Good morning, Joshua.
Okay, good morning, Newton, and compliments of the season to you. I also greet the honorable compliments to him. I want to say that we are facing a pandemic, and we all know that. And I want to tell your guests that the church, the religious organization, are in denial of what is going on. They are telling their members it is not happening, it is not happening. So you cannot, as a government, be advising them. That posture is counterproductive. Somebody who is in denial, you don't tell them to take responsibility. You slam the law on them. So I'm surprised that, this thing is happening, that the Lagos State government is not categorical about what they want to do. It's crossover. What is crossover compared to people's lives? You're putting the lives of people, and somebody who is a pastor somewhere is more powerful than government. And government suddenly is now serving as an advisory body. What is advisory? Right? They should be categorical. If you are saying, okay, 10 p.m., everybody go home. I tell you that if you are saying by 11, how will people get back home by 12? Logistics, how will they get back home by 12? So I think the government should be categorical about what it is. There are people who do this crossover service before now, like a day start, 4 to 5 or 4 to 9. Let them bring down the time and forget about this 12 p.m. thing.
But Joshua, you will also agree, if I can button very quickly, you will agree that it is easier to appeal to people to stay responsible than, exploring punitive measures. Consider, how much it will cost. Do we even have the manpower to police people? In the course of doing that, wouldn't we also start breaking the laws that we're asking people to abide with?
No, sorry, please, government should lay the example by, even if people are going to break the law, government should be certain to say, okay, we are outrightly saying, do this. If people now decide otherwise, government has taken a position, but government should not be neither here nor there. They should be specific about what they want to do. The fact that people will break the law will always be there. But this is a pandemic. And we must have a government.
It's all right.
And they should act like that.
I believe you made your point very clearly. Thank you very much for your contribution from Ogun State. So you were talking about the state government, exploring means of helping people understand the importance of this infrastructure. Because one of the questions I also have is, it's one thing to rebuild it. Lagos is very rich. We're going to rebuild. But how do we ensure that after rebuilding this infrastructure, we don't have a repetition of what transpired earlier this year? Has that been reviewed? Have we identified the root causes of such carnage? And is that being tackled head on?
That's what I was saying, that the most important thing to the government and the governor is that we should find out what went wrong. Why Lagosians were playing together, we were working together, we were partying together. All of a sudden, we just come and find some of them destroying infrastructure that took so many years of sweating, so many years of working to build.
That's right.
Why would people do that? I mean, that is maniacal. And psychologists are standing by, trying to find out why it happened. Sociologists are there, trying to find out why it happened. And then we are talking to community leaders. We are talking to youth leaders. What went wrong? Because this is the kind of thing that we have never seen in Lagos before. The carnage is just beyond belief. So there is part of the job of the committee that has been set up is also to find out what went wrong.
Let's take Ada's call from Jos in Plateau State. Good morning, Ada. Are you still there?
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
I've listened to you people. Yes, I've listened to you. It's very interesting. But I want to say this, just like Joshua, the other caller, said. It's all, I thought that we are to observe the COVID-19 protocols to balance life and livelihood. It's unfortunate that some religious leaders see the pandemic as a hoax, and they preach shame to the congregation. You see, such religious leaders should desist from doing that. If they don't want to be part of the solution, let them not be part of the problem. Let me tell you something. It is because of this particular attitude. That's why the church, that is all these religious forums are usually grounds for a spike in COVID-19. You see, when you say they should observe the protocols like wearing masks, wearing that mask, that nose mask or whatever, is not the issue. When they get to what happens inside the church, I'm a Christian, so I know what I'm talking about. When you get inside the church, we are not being hypocritical. How can somebody be singing in ecstasy with a mask on? Is it possible? It's not possible. So what are we talking about? It's either we say no singing, or you put the mask on and nobody sings, or you say we shouldn't sing at all. When they get into the church, the nose mask becomes a chin mask. So that's why the spread is there. So why should we be hypocritical in the approach? So I'm of the view too that government should take a stand. What's the meaning of crossover? I can crossover in my house. I can crossover online. There's a pandemic going in the air. So what's this case about going to the church to do the crossover?
I think you made a point, Ada. Thank you. Thank you for your contribution from Jazz. A very passionate contribution there. I want us to touch on the issue of gridlock and traffic, which seemed to. So it was an issue before the election, and there were a lot of strategies talked about, particularly the Apapa Port Road. What is the state government doing, to ensure that life is made easier for those plying this route? Apapa
is just a problem that is like no other, talking in terms of congestion. A few days ago, the governor was there with the deputy governor and some other members of the executive council to see, as they say, for themselves, what actually was going on in Apapa. And they met freight forwarders, they met maritime unions, they met drivers, they met all manner of people. And it was blame after encounter, blame, accusations, and there was really no agreement on what the cause of this problem is. Power play, corruption, and all manner of, in the Nigerian style, people were just shifting blames. And then what I think the government is going to do now is, before it was the talk of a bad road, but if you look at the road to the port now, so many roads have been done in that area in Apapa. And the government is now saying, well, what we are going to do is to call a stakeholders meeting. All of these people will be called and be told in clear terms what to do, because it has become an embarrassment. All of the things suggested, the presidential task force. So, I mean, the presidential task force, I think, is rounding off now, and is going to hand over that place to the Lagos State government. And the Lagos State government is going to deploy more men, more last-man men. But before all of that, there is going to be meeting with all the stakeholders, the port police, the freight forwarders, the maritime authorities, Nigeria Ports Authority, who are the landlords of the place, so that all of us can look at the way forward and resolve this problem.
Are you optimistic that this can be resolved in the new year?
Of course, I'm optimistic.
Let's take Ido's call very quickly from Oworoshoki. Good morning, Ido.
Good morning, Mr. Commissioner. I want to comment on the issue of the crossover service. I can observe that there are some people who ordinarily are always in opposition to anything called religion. We can't blame them. It's because they don't believe in it. But however the case may be, they should not castigate others that has that belief. The church is always in this. And we all know that the marketplaces, the offices, even those that are bragging on the air, most of them, they don't have all those protocols observed. The churches are doing everything possible. I know of churches that have not even operated since the lifting of the first COVID-19 lockdown. So churches are doing their best. Some people should not come to the air and come and be black, painting the church black. Most of them in their offices, they don't keep the rule. Most of them in their place of business, they flout the rules. Even when the church is holding on the here, majority, more than 60 or 70% of the churches now hold virtual programs. And then why should somebody, because you don't believe in it, begin to castigate others or to destroy the church? You cannot put the church down. It's the body of Christ. And we know that this thing is the way it should be. I see you with your sanitizer there. Ask them how many of them have it in their homes and offices. So I want everybody to just respect an individual for what they believe. We are trying as much as possible to make sure that no rule is flouted. And when Lagos State will say, okay, obey the federal government curfew rule, which every church, as I'm speaking to you today, has obeyed.
Absolutely.
Every church has cancelled their programs. So nobody should come on here, whether in Joshua, whatever. Somebody in Ogun State is coming to tell us what will happen in Lagos State.
I think you made your point, Ido. Thank you very much for your contribution. My church, for instance, is going virtual tonight, so we're going to be sitting in my house watching the service online. And I think that 2020 seems to have taught us a lot of alternatives doing business. You can be somewhere and not be there physically. Let's talk about how the state government has fared. It must have been a really challenging year. Lagos being the epicenter of the pandemic in the country. The governor himself had a dose of the virus, and then came the NSAS, that really devastated Lagos. Let's talk about government performance in the midst of all of these challenges in 2020.
Yeah, before we had the pandemic, we had so many plans. We never knew that this kind of calamity would befall humanity. But that didn't stop us. We recall that Lagos State was the first anywhere to hold a virtual meeting of its executive council when even people overseas had not done that. So while the pandemic was raging, work was on. Work was on the sense that we commissioned so many roads, and all of those things that we were doing at that time, we start seeing the results now. I mean, we are building roads, new roads that we started at that time. We have schools to commission. We have hospitals to commission, hospitals in Badagry and roads in Badagry and so many other places. Schools, over 300 schools have been renovated. And then in terms of ease of doing business, we are working on revolutionizing the land administration. Is going to be, everything is going to be digitalized, and so many things that the government has been able to do in terms of education, training of our teachers, using EcoSL, in terms of, that is why you see that our schools are winning awards, our pupils are winning awards. And then even the traffic problem that we are talking about, we were able to do our attraction improvement projects. If you get to Allen Avenue, you see that traffic situation there has been resolved. If you get to Lekki, the first junction, the second junction, all of the roundabouts have been removed, and then those places have been reworked, and then traffic flows better until the EndSARS protest where all the traffic lamps were destroyed, and then they are being put together. Our housing projects are ready, Shango, Tedo, Badagry, Ikorodu, and some other places. So very soon we are going to be opening new houses. We are going to be commissioning new schools. We are going to be, you will see a lot of the schools that we have renovated, and more are going to be renovated. Then the road projects that are on, the Lekki-Epe road, we flagged it off, and the work is on now, the regional road. Then the railway project, because people have told us that, and we know by ourselves that resolving the traffic problem in Lagos, transportation problem, that we have to look at all other modes of transportation. So we have secured funding for the red line. The job has started already. Then the blue line is on. And so many other things that we're doing. I mean, you have seen the new buses. Unfortunately, some of them were destroyed during the
Let me hold you very briefly to take our last caller on the show this morning. Mazi Okorafor, Arochukwu, Abia State. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Nixon. Good morning, Honorable Commissioner. Good morning. I was telling my children around, that was two days ago, saying, when you enter Lagos, you see that from Lagos, see that Lagos. See, welcome to Lagos. This is Lagos, is different from welcome to welcome to the state. They were like, I said, just try and find out, you see that Lagos is this Lagos. Now, I thank the Lagos State government for one thing, for so many things. Like, number one, the EndSARS, the way the government is handling this issue of showing live on Lagos television, at least, it will make it should help us at least to follow the trend of events. Now, Honorable Commissioner, there's something I want us to look into. This is the last day in the month of December 2020. Let the government see what they can do about this one chance is getting out of proportion. Not only Lagos, that's why I said this Lagos is of high profile. Don't talk about Abuja. One chances, at least you know what I mean by one chances. And this Lagos and Papa Gridge have been saying, honestly speaking, for years, most. What do the government want exactly? What do they do? Because I was listening to a program where the people there, those drivers and they were complaining how much they spend and how many months they spend on that many waiting for their autos to leave that place. Government has to find a lasting solution between now and the end of January. Because one, the government is losing a lot of revenue. Two, the owners of those goods, they are also suffering. Three, it's a very big problem because the type of virus and the type of bacteria and biological chemicals that transmitted is very, very hard. That the government has to find. People are talking about crossover. Crossover is optional. If you like, you stay in your house and monitor the program from the TV. If you like to go and find yourself in any situation, it's your own choice. So to me, I'll tell you, the choice is open. If you don't like to go to the market, make your own choice because market is segmented.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much and happy Christmas and happy New Year to the TV channel. To all Nigerians who are watching this program, God bless.
Wish you the same, Mazi. We have to wrap up now. So tonight, there will be a lot of prophecies about the new year. What is the government prophesying to Lagosians in the new year? 2020 has been quite challenging. What should they expect? What directions government taking, and how will it impact positively on the economy of the people? You know, we talked about people complying with directives. One thing we must also put at the back of our mind is that economy is key. If people are going to sit back at home, it will mean that they have provision to cater to their families. If that is not there, then that policy is going to somersault.
Yeah, I would like to tell Lagosians on behalf of the governor, Mr. Waide Sanwo-Olu, that good times are on the way. They should just take responsibility because of this virus, and that the economy, as you have said, there are good things that will come to the economy. Like I have just said, the railway projects are on. The blue line and the red line, they may be ready at the same time towards the end of the year. they may be tested, they will be tested from by the grace of God. We have secure funding for that. And once you are the railway, people can commute easily. It's going to provide more jobs. And ease of doing business, Lagos State is working on that so that we can have more direct foreign investment. We are leading in the country, and we are not ready to give up that position. Our health facilities are going to be better. We have grown on the experience of COVID-19 to rebuild them and to retrain our health experts. So if you walk into our hospitals, you are going to have better facilities and better attention. And then in terms of education, we are pumping more money into education so that our EcoSF program that is activating all of the plans we have at the primary level will be well done. Then all of the housing projects that we are going to begin to commission from about 1 month from now, we show that Lagosians are going to have a better more homes to live in. So there will be so many things that Lagosians will be happy about coming from the government in 2021.
Gbenga Omotoso is Commissioner of Information in Lagos. Mr. Commissioner, thank you for talking to us, and compliments of the season to you.
Same to you.
All right, I'll see you in the new year. Please celebrate moderately. Don't forget that there still exists a curfew between midnight and 4 a.m. So do most things indoors to ensure that we all take responsibility in the wake of a second wave. We'll see you again tomorrow. Bye for now.